Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Mayhem and Master Plans. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Don't sing.
Why?
Will it be another music episode?
No, I'm just
No.
I'm just trying to. I'm just trying.
Not
to
two in a
mix
row.
it up. I'm trying to mix it up. I'm trying to come up with catchy, nice, fun intros to our new episodes. And then we kind of need to do the Mr. Beast playbook and saying like, in this episode, you can expect the craziest talk about like how you become a millionaire in 5 easy steps. And now let's go right into the episode. Hello, Andreas. Hello, Simon. Welcome.
Yeah, but welcome. But we don't know yet what this episode is going to be about. I mean, even if you say that, we're going to talk about 5 easy steps to become a millionaire, we don't know if that's what we end up talking about.
That doesn't matter for YouTube. We just need to build.
Oh, we just need a hook. A hook,
and then you just have to the whole episode needs to be successful in social media. You just need to have like the most outrageous statements like following one after another to really go viral, right? So we need to say like,
well, then let's talk this week about how to become a billionaire and an oligarch and how to rule your own country. How's that?
Yeah.
There's a good playbook in that. There's a good playbook happening in the US right now, right?
But is there something special what happened recently in the US? So is there any new news or?
I can't keep up. I'm sorry. It's actually, yes, there is new news, and I think that's good news. Which is that our friends Bernie and AOC went on tour together and held rallies over the weekend in Colorado area, and they had expected like 3,000 people to turn up, and it turned into like 34,000 or so in Denver, and
Bernie
similarly
and
huge.
Who?
Bernie Sanders and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Cortez.
And
not to confuse her with DOC, right?
Who's DOC?
What's DOC?
No, what's the
now you're confusing us.
Now I'm confusing you. No, like the GOP. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. AOC is definitely not the GOP. It's quite the opposite, really. No. Anyway, so there is a momentum growing in terms of people expressing their outrage and their frustration and realizing the chaos that the Trump administration is kind of instilling, and particularly Musk's activities are instilling on the country, and it is already filtering through to some people, right? So folks who are inherently apolitical, who don't pay attention to politics, who are not deeply informed about this because, well, they have to focus on other things. They might be veterans, and they now feel that the Department of Veterans Affairs is not providing the services anymore that they were used to. Or they might be retirees, depending on Social Security, and they heard or felt that the Social Security Administration is now suddenly not acting like they were used to. And so there is a growing sense of clarity, I suppose, what some of these fighting words and hooks that the politicians used during the campaign time, what they now mean when they're being put into practice, right? Or what they mean for an individual. And what this really will play out as, nobody knows. But
I think to overcome all the disruption and friction, I think the resistance, or how should I say, should come from within the Republicans, right? I think everything what the Democrats are doing, I'm not sure. So I read the news about Chuck Schumer. He said that there will be a big riot probably in the future if if they will proceed with all the Dutch and MAGA and blah blah blah. But yeah, so it was just in my point of view, when I saw that Chuck Schumer is a Democrat, I just thought, okay, it's just another Democrat idea or whatever.
I think it's a little bit pretentious, especially. So Chuck Schumer is a very old school Democrat. He's been a leader of the Democratic Party for decades, and
some might say too long.
Some might say too long. And he, especially in the last couple of weeks, basically gave the Republicans sufficient votes in the Senate to push their recent budget proposal through. And that is something that the younger, more fighting portions of the Democratic Party did not like at all. And it is something that so for him to say that there might be a riot, the first riot that he might actually see is a riot against him, right?
Yeah.
But and then to think and to hope that the population will, just magically riot against, well, not riot, but just rise up and object and resist that which Trump and his cronies are doing. I think it doesn't happen without leaders, and so you need some people to lead a resistance if that's what you're interested in, or if that's what you think is right and necessary. And so, Chuck Schumer is probably not the chosen leader of.
Yeah, that's what I
was
intentionally thought when I read that.
I agree with you, Simon. I think that the real anti-MAGA movement needs to come out of the Republican Party to really get back to a middle ground, or like nobody's against a conservative worldview, right? And it has its place, and even if I don't agree with it, for me personally, there is a population that is very interested in that, and I think it's that the mild pull, like, to a more conservative view, then also to a slight pull into a more progressive or left-leaning view. I think that is all like completely fine. I think that's what I've been thinking about the last a couple of months is that we try to label things. Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? I think that is kind of what led to the divide that you have in the US right now, that you have this two-party system, and to really make sure that you kind of like show that your opponents, they kind of drifted apart further and further. And that's how you build those kind of like walls and those divide. I think that's what we see in Europe as well, where you try to label things, where you really want to have a truth or false answer to a lot of things, where we're leaning, and then that's powered by social media, where it's like more the more
it's the them versus us narrative is a problem.
Exactly,
and that is really what this comes down to.
That's always built on this kind of like idea of like you try to label something, right? Because are you left or are you right? Like, it doesn't have to. Like, I can be very left and progressive on a few things,
on some causes, and
I can be conservative on a few other things. And I think
absolutely,
like, that's what you need to, like, that's what people need to understand. It's like you can't label it. Like, you need to stop labeling people and trying to push them into like. It was the same with. That's why I think you had to struggle with the Vogue movement, where people were like, "Oh, so you're not super Vogue, so you're completely against it. So you're one of the bad guys." So it happens a lot in a lot of places. So because
can we talk about something else, not politics?
100%. Because there's one thing that I was at a birthday party, and I talked to a few people. Like, it was a 50th
that's my
birthday.
kind of mayhem birthday party.
Yeah, it was a 50th birthdays, and there were quite a few interesting people there. And so one guy I talked to, like, he works for a big law firm, like huge law firm. It's huge. It's one of the greatest. No, I'm joking. And then and he was saying like he was in contact with the Max Planck Institute. So it's what's Max Planck? It's kind of, is there a comparison to the US?
Yeah, the CDC.
Okay,
The German Max Planck Institute is the equivalent of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control here in the US.
But yeah, so they do a lot of research, and they are getting a ton of applications from scientists in the US because the environment in the US for scientific research has become
untenable for some.
Untenable, exactly. And so they're cutting on Alzheimer's research, they're cutting on cancer research, and so they get a lot of applications. And Andreas, you remember we were at the conference where a lot of people from companies, they weren't criticizing the government directly, but they were criticizing that. And you had on Jimmy Kimmel, you had the guy from the senator of California, Schiff. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
And they were all saying like I liked him. He was like, he wasn't again like, well, he said fuck you to Trump, but regardless of that, he was also saying we don't like when we have uncertainty. We need like, even he said with terrorists, either you go for the terrorists or you don't, but we need clarity, and we need kind of like
that's exactly the thing, right?
And that's what companies need, and the research as well. So I think there's a huge potential for Europe to poach a lot of talent from the US.
And the French are already doing it. They already officially offered scientific asylum.
I hate the name. I hate the name.
I'm sure, but
sucks. But
it's bad branding. But
French are bad in English, so maybe it's.
But the idea to say, well, okay, how about if you guys are kind of beginning to push scientists out, or making their life harder, or making it untenable to kind of to pursue the kind of research that they were working on, then here are our open arms, and we would like to make room and space for you, and you can pursue this research here at our universities. And this is, by the way, this is something that, from a European perspective, super smart. From a national European perspective, why didn't the Germans say that yet? Why didn't they fire up their
because they're currently still in negotiations for setting up their government, right?
But either way, I think this notion of kind of offering easy pathways to facilitate the brain drain that the Trump administration initiated, that is a very smart, very opportunistic reaction.
And they should, and like even more of not just like in the science department and research, but also for like businesses and management people that are kind of like, hey, I want to work in an environment that is more stable where I can run my business. So like there's many opportunities right now in the coming 4 years to really like poach talent from the US or poach talent from all over the world that were committed to go to the US because like the environment was so great to say like, but think about Europe, because we're having a stable government. We are very liberal. We're very like free speech in Europe. And then compared to, hey, you're living in in San Francisco or in New York, think about living in Berlin or living in Paris. The cost of living is so much cheaper. Like the value for money that you get, even compare like London to New York or something. Well, there's so much potential to show them we're about to have a good time here. So that could be like that. I'm gonna like it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah. In addition, I read in news today that the investment vice president or chief investment officer of Morgan Stanley said that the German capital market will be more important than ever. And I think it was not the European investment chef or
head
president. It was I think the investment the global one.
Yeah, I mean,
his name is
Ben
Simkowitz.
I
his name is Morgan Stanley.
Okay. I mean,
that's
it's
so.
a
Shout
bit of a
out.
truism, right? That's an easy statement to make, but
Yeah. Especially in a German newspaper. But
sure, yeah, but
And it kind of worked, right? Everybody's like, "Yes, we agree with you." Like, thank you. Just telling you.
so, what should we not now hope for? So that Trump will proceed and Musk will proceed, and
no,
or should we?
ultimately, I mean, I think what you in Europe should hope for is swift decisions to make, to be opportunistic, to kind of jump on opportunities that now present themselves, like this idea of facilitating that brain drain. Because let's face it, right? You're not just importing knowledge and scientific discovery and smart people to teach at the university. Yes, that too. But you're also importing half-finished products and services. And once you spin them out of a university, so for example, there's most large universities have really well-established accelerator programs and incubators and programs to allow their students to take research and to turn it into, with a little bit of funding and a little bit of support into potentially world-changing innovations, and
And I think
innovative products.
that's what Europe is bad at the moment. I think
So
that's
far, they have. I mean, there are some good examples, right? So for example, there are. Munich is really pretty good at this. Munich's technical university has a program, which is a play on words in German. It's called
Unternehmertum.
Unternehmertum, and a play on their abbreviation, which is TUM.
Yep.
But it's a by now well-established program that has a good track record, and they know what they're doing. They have good people leading that program and then working with the people at the university and the surrounding ecosystem. And Munich in general is a city that, it's not as cheap as Berlin maybe, but it is in general very receptive and very open-minded to research and to innovation.
And they're really pushing for like the digital sector right now. So
Yeah.
like that's
Absolutely.
why Google has an office there. Why OpenAI is opening their office there and not in
Yeah.
Berlin, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That you see. So Munich, like they have done it in a really they've done it really
Mhm.
well. Like
Mhm.
having technical companies, like the last iteration was like Siemens, Osram. Those like hardware technology companies being in Munich.
BMW,
BMW, yes, and they kinda now moving in, so they what was it, like, white industry? Like the where it's more like like technical engineering instead of, like, the Ruhrgebiet that was more like
Oh, you mean white
production
collar
and
and versus blue collar thing?
yeah, but more like the industry where it's like a white collar industry, like not like blue collars like work, but like where is it like industrial manufacturing, for example, was more like steel and auto parts, like auto assembly was Munich, and then building the parts, like the steel industry was like Ruhrgebiet. The Ruhrgebiet did a bad job because again, I think it's a struggle because the Ruhrgebiet is not just one city, but it's a collective. So it makes it
Mhm.
more difficult. But like from the potential, the Ruhrgebiet is very interesting. A lot of airports, closeness to Amsterdam, closeness to London. So in general, the Ruhrgebiet could be a great area. Like I always say, it's like I always compare it to New York. Um, Me living in the Hamptons of the Ruhrgebiet, I make that
Yeah.
I make that analogy, but so Munich is doing a good job, and now with all the investments happening, so there's potential in that. I hope the new government in Germany will see that opportunity and make that happen, and really focus on that. Poorly enough, you already hear a lot of voices saying like, "Oh, the CDU already made too many commitments to like."
Yeah.
Climate and infrastructure, so they're already doing a poor job, and they're letting the SPD dictate what they have to do. So the climate already kind of like from the start on is really
Yeah. Let's see.
I know.
We talked about this. We talked about this last time.
Last
the whole
week,
climate
exactly.
discussion.
I mean, we kind of have to wrap it up and come to that back. But I want to talk to you guys about like not just politics, but I want to talk to you about AI.
Yes.
One thing, because Simon this morning said he's done a lot of work with AI. I'm gonna do a lot of panel discussions and presentations and talks on audio and AI this year as well. And then Andreas, you've always been in our conversation the one saying, like, let's wait and see, and it has to be smart, and so you have to I guess you have been more critical on the topic. So I want to talk about AI, and let's start with you, Andreas. Has your opinion changed on that? What is your perspective on AI at the moment?
So my opinion hasn't fully changed. My perspective on AI is that, and I've said this about crypto as well when we were on the crypto hype, right? So I'm allergic to
Those
hypes.
poor crypto bros.
I love Hypecast, but I am really allergic to hype cycles. And so when people are incapable of showing utility or usefulness or how a technology can, let's say, power certain features, then I'm cautious, right?
Yeah.
And so for AI, first of all, we need to realize that AI means many things, right? So when we're talking about the mislabeling of machine learning as AI, and we're talking about machine learning technology, deep learning, in order to, for example, clean up the audio of this particular recording. For example, in order to, help facilitate and automate and improve certain things. I'm all for that. That's fantastic. If we're talking about,
while you mentioned that, do you think we're going to label it sooner or later, like where something is AI, like the fitness space where some people are natty and some people are doing steroids, and then when you don't do steroids, you're natty. So are you in the future going to say, like, this is a natty podcast, like
all natural,
organic, yeah,
free range organic podcasters,
kind of is. I mean, we call it master plans and mayhem, right? But
no, mayhem and master plan.
Okay, so I am all for this. So as soon as you kind of take the label AI and replace it with the word automation, right? And it doesn't then matter if it's truly AI or if it's machine learning or whatever is under the hood. If you replace it in the sentence, in your thinking, in your product planning with automation, just really good automation, and that works, then I'm all for it. And I'm really excited and interested to see what you're doing there or what you're, proposing or cooking up. So this means that these kinds of features, cleaning up text, summarizing text, giving you a starting point so that you're not staring at a blank sheet of paper, be it for an outline of a product proposal or be it for an outline of a slide deck or anything like that, anything that helps people kind of get over the first hump or get over any kind of blocker, I'm really quite open to. In fact, I use them myself here and there. I have rarely found them to be really good enough for what I want. So I don't think anybody has gotten a document or an email from me yet that is AI generated, because or a slide deck or anything like that. Because frankly, I don't like putting my name to that because it always sounds generic. It always sounds dead. It's always, not. It doesn't quite capture what I'm trying to express in many ways, but it does get me sometimes over the hump. It sometimes helps me, there's these sometimes very long stories of people using chat bots, be it ChatGPT or any of the other guys, Gemini or some Claude, in order to brainstorm, where they're having basically a conversation
Mhm.
like we often do when we are brainstorming features, when we are brainstorming, ideas, and you just don't have somebody available, either knowledgeable enough or just simply available because you're in an office by yourself or you're just walking around somewhere and having ideas. Um, so using chatbots for that kind of thing seems to work for some people, and that's great. So I am mildly optimistic and positive, but I do want people to stop doing the hype. And it doesn't really matter if it's AI, which is the flavor of the month or the year right now, or crypto or something else it was before that. Um, when somebody uses big complex words to describe something that is really something very simple, I get suspicious. And when something, when challenged, then cannot explain what they mean when they say these words, then I get pretty dismissive pretty quickly. But that's just my way of kind of editing quickly and
Oh,
making sure that I actually pay attention to the right people and not get sucked into the slop.
I totally see the point, Simon. Where like you're working with AI on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
so and I think that that caters to the point of Andreas, like where because I think we've seen at the moment I look at like who is investing in startups and what are those startups, and to a certain extent I get the feeling that it's a bunch of investments that I see are like the same kind of startups from 3 to 5 years ago, and it just has AI to it. It's like finding your right employees with
Yeah.
the right tool, and it's AI powered.
Sales
Sales
agents.
agents, exactly. Now it's like, or you have like an HR software, AI powered, or project management, now
Yeah.
AI powered. So it's the same kind of product that they're pitching, but they just
Yeah,
somewhere
but
squeeze in the word AI, and it's like, yeah, that's not gonna really help uh, move AI
correctly. So
forward. But yeah,
you
tell us your
should not
experience.
use investors or VC investments to predict what will be the next thing in tech industry, right? Yeah, so I have thought about that question also quite a lot the last days, I would say, because I recognized a pattern on LinkedIn within the developer community. There's so the one half is, I would say, very optimistic and really celebrating the advancements AI has brought to the developer life and developer workflows. So they say, "Wow, I can do this and that with AI, and my productivity is more now 10x." And yeah, and then there are the other part of the community. They saying, I tried to build this with AI, but there was a tiny little unimportant thing which was not worked out, or where I tried it several times and it was not satisfied me, blah blah blah." And yeah, and I'm really wondering why. So I'm so I'm um, yeah, belonging to the part who's really optimistic about AI. Who yeah, so I have gained a lot of advancements and power from AI in my day to day life. And yeah, I cannot really see why not every developer see the advancements of AI in their daily work. It's really what I don't understand. And I'm so right now I'm thinking they are just a bit old school, and maybe also maybe trying to, or feeling uncomfortable when something really yeah, really disruptive things are gonna happen, right? And where they see, okay, maybe I will not be, or I have to do something different, or I have to change myself, right? I think, yeah, I think that are this kind of persons where they're a bit scared about change in general, right? If it's if it's AI or not. So yeah.
I agree, and to a certain level of personal experience, the developer community is not like the most like driven and like open for innovation, right? Like trying something new.
Yeah.
They're more like in a certain way they are very like conservative and to an extent like don't change the things that work, and we kind of stick to the things that work.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense in that sense because there's so much innovation going on in that space that you kind of have to like take an approach where it's like, yeah, let's wait and see when
I,
you know.
I think you have to look at. I mean, the developer community is huge, right?
I know.
But you have to look at it from two different perspectives. There are those who want to tinker with their activity and who produce code for the sake of producing great code. And those are probably not quite so happy about AI. And then there are those who produce code in order to make something else work, produce a product, produce a service, create their company, whatever it might be, for whom this kind of development process is a means to an end, to another end. And they are open to this. Similarly, if you look at artists, so for example, I have a photography background. In the photography community, there are those who really don't give a shit about what kind of camera they're using. They just grab something. If it's an iPhone, if it's a Canon, if it's, an old raggedy Holga, a film with a lens in front of it that you can go and get developed, it doesn't matter to them. Because to them, what matters is the image, the art that they might be creating, or in the case of photojournalists, the story that they might be telling. But the technology that they use for that, they're really opportunistic about it and just take whatever is there or most appropriate for the job. And then there are those who obsess over the lenses and the devices and the filters that they use either on the camera or apply later in post-production or whatnot. For them, it's about the process. For them, it's a hobby. The activity is the point, right? And so looking at those differences, I think if you kind of transpose that back or these kinds of lenses back to development, you'll see that difference. Those who care about their code and for whom the process of creating code is the core of their, I guess, persona or their being, they might be a little cautious about AI. And for those whom basically the code is in the way of getting something else done and it just needs to get done, they are much.
I think
more
it's really like you explained. So there are a lot of developers, they like to write code and to play around with code and research all by themselves, right? And then there are the other part who just want to get things done.
I like the comparison to photographers because you and I think it goes through a lot of like different jobs because and now I wrap up this episode with some kind of like generalization that in my head is existing. So I think in the places where you're bad, where you don't have any skills, AI tools like chat agents or whatever makes you better. Like I can use Lightroom, I can use Photoshop to create pictures that are better than the ones that I organically take because I can Photoshop out people, the same way I can write an email where I might not be the best writer. It can give me tips on, I just did the chat variant with like planning a trip to Luxembourg. I don't have any idea of what to do with kids in Luxembourg, but ChatGPT does. So it helps me to get to a level where I'm like, okay, I like this, I don't like this. Like having a decision that I can base on, do I want a better one than you gave me, or is it okay with me? That helps me. But it also makes the people that are really good at something just very average. So if you want to use AI in a really great way, that it puts out something great, you have to put in a lot of work. So it's still your work. And if you want to create great content, You have to think about, what story am I going to tell? What audience do I want to reach? Think about it. If you're doing deep search on those different tools, you can type in a command, but it will ask you a number of questions before it will give you an answer. So that is kind of like what it already does with you. Is like, yeah, you can type in a simple command, but if you don't really go for it and add as much information, and that can take you quite a while and put in a lot of effort, you will always get just a benchmark average. So that's what, with photographers, is make the bad ones good. But if you're a very good photographer that is very much focused on detail,
Yeah.
it would just make you average as the rest of them. So, and it's the same with coders and all the other things as
Yeah.
well.
I guess if you want to oversimplify it, if good enough is good enough, then the 80-20 rule is fantastic.
100%, yeah.
You know, and if you
remember,
want
good,
to rise
you already have the word
beyond,
good in it. So we're talking about good. We're not talking about like it's mediocre, it's average, it's good.
that depends on the details, right? But that aside, that's for generalization and overgeneralization that we're doing here. If good enough is good enough, then the 80-20 rule is a perfect starting point. And then I think AI support is absolutely fine. If you decide for yourself that your output needs to be beyond mediocre, beyond good enough, then you got to put in the work. And that doesn't change anytime soon.
Exactly. I think it will not change at all. Awesome. So we talked about AI. So we got that. Hopefully the algorithms will kind of like push
Will
us
like it.
forward with us talking about
Hopefully AI will think about AI.
Hopefully AI will kind of like love that.
AI will feel, very
Flattered.
flattered, and they talked about me. Let's push this. Yeah.
All right, let's finish up with your favorite song, Simon. Or we're going to continue with the playlist.
First, I have to say I see a dozen of sound tracks here in my recently played list, but sadly or happily, it's up to you. My recently played song is a child song. It's Sweet Dreams. But the other
Right.
dozen songs
Which
are
one
really
is it?
just Sweet Dreams.
Okay.
From that same super cool playlist, super simple songs.
Okay. Andreas, what about you?
My last played song is by Dark Tranquillity and is called Not Nothing.
Awesome. I listened to an 80s playlist, and I was listening to, hang on, I'm Still Standing, Elton John.
Nice.
That's what I was listening to. So, yeah, we haven't matched our sound. I wonder when we have the first episode where we're all in the same genre, or where we have the first overlap where people listen to the same artist at least. I wonder when that episode comes.
I think it'll be a while. I think Simon's kind of lean towards kids songs is going to make that a really quite a challenge. But let's see.
If this podcast goes on in 15 years and Simon is still on that, we might need to worry, right? Because kids are out of the house and like, why is he still listening to this? That's like, what happened? Well, anyways, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Likewise. This was fun.
Bye.